In the last video, we successfully set up MTE Relay Server on AWS. In this video, we will install the MTE Relay Client Library into our client application and encrypt all network traffic between our client and our server. So let's start by taking a look at our client application. We have here a demo with a few examples of times when users on your website might be requesting or submitting sensitive data. For example, in a hospital setting, requesting patient information. We have a login form. We have a demo credit card submission form, highly sensitive. And then we also have a custom headers form where you might be exchanging authorization tokens or API keys through custom headers, and we can secure those as well. So let's start by focusing on the login form. And what we need to do is install a copy of MTE Relay Client in our client application. So where can we get a copy of MTE Relay Client? MTE Relay Server can serve you a copy. So go to the URL where you stood up your MTE Relay Server, and you can go to the path public/mterelaybbrowser.js, and now you can use a script tag to link to this URL, or you can do what I'm about to do, which is copy the entire thing into your client-side source code. So let's head back to our client library, and we want to go to the source code for this library. Now this library, or this demo application, is written in React, but MTE Relay Client is written in vanilla JavaScript with no dependencies. So you can use it with any framework or with no framework at all. So I'm going to create a JavaScript file called mterelaybbrowser.js, and I'm going to paste in what I got from the server for my client-side library. And then I want to focus on the login form first. So I'll go to my forms folder and click on login. And I want to just import from this new file at source MTE Relay Browser, and we can see here it only exports a single thing called MTE Fetch. So let me save that. Now MTE Fetch is specifically designed to have the exact same API as the native fetch function. So down here in my handle submit function, I can find where I'm calling fetch and just simply replace it with MTE Fetch. And with no other changes, we've installed and used the MTE Relay Client library. So let's head back to our demo application, and I'm going to submit this login form. And we see that we get back an error. So why did this happen? Well, we successfully installed the MTE Relay Client, but we are still sending network traffic directly to our backend services, and what we need to do is forward the network traffic through the MTE Relay server. So let's get the URL for our relay server. I'm going to come back to this tab and copy it here. And then in my demo, I have this section that allows me to direct traffic to a different server. So I'm going to enter my relay server URL here and save that. And then I'm going to clear the network tab and the form, and then we'll just try this again. So first of all, I can see that the login was successful. We see all of our data, and over here in the developer tools, I can see the network requests that happen. So I see a network request API MTE Relay and a second one API MTE Pair, and then I see what looks like an encrypted request. So what happened? The MTE Relay Client Library did a check to make sure that it was in fact talking to a relay server, and then it made a request to pair with the relay server. So now the two of them know about each other. And after that happens one time, the client and server can exchange as many encrypted requests as they want. Now, one of the things here, if we look at the request, even though it was the same every time, the URL has changed every time. And if I click on one of these requests, you can see the full URL, very encrypted. We can look at the payload, which is also encrypted, and we can look at the response from the server, which is also encrypted. Of course, as a normal user, you would never know that your data is being protected by MTE. So now I'm going to update this demo to use MTE Relay for all of the forms. So let's go to the code base. And I'm going to use a feature in React called custom hooks to basically implement this everywhere. So let's delete this, and let's delete this, and we'll save it. And then we will go to our hooks folder, and I have this code pre-set up. So let's just uncomment that, uncomment that. So what this is saying is when there's a condition in my application is true, we're going to use MTE Fetch, and when it's false, we're going to use the native MTE. So let's go back to my demo application and take a look. If I refresh the page and clear the network tab, this is my MTE toggle. So when it is toggled off, we want to send requests directly to the backend servers. So I can do this, and we can see that the request is not encoded. I can see the URL, the payload, and the response. If I turn on MTE and I route the traffic through my MTE Relay server, then I can see that we do the pair, the check, and we also encrypt all of the data. So let's go through each of these forms and see how it affects MTE. So let me turn it off. So this is a GET request that returns sensitive data, and I can use query parameters to search through the data. So here I get all of my patients, and if I enter the search phrase of John, it will get appended to my search URL as a query parameter. We can see that here. So now if I turn MTE on and I route my traffic through the relay server, and I make the same request, we can see that everything has been encoded, including the query parameter, the entire URL. There was no request body, but the response does have data, and we can see all that data is encrypted. Of course, in our UI, we see exactly the data we expect to see. Let me clear this and we will look at the login form. I'll turn MTE off. We'll send the login. We can see everything about the login, the URL, the headers, and the body and the request. Let's go ahead and turn MTE on. We'll resend this form. And now we can see everything has been encoded, the URL, the request body, and the response body. We have the same thing with a credit card information. I can turn relay off and we will send this. Here's our credit card route with our credit card payload and response body. We can turn MTE on. And the last thing that I want to show is custom headers. A lot of times you're sending sensitive information as a header. So let me turn MTE relay off, and I'm going to change this header to 4A's so that it appears at the top. Here we have our custom headers, and on this route the server simply echoes back. Here's our request header. The server will simply echo back the custom header. So in the response headers, we see the echo back. And then when we get that response, we'll read the response header and print it out right here on the screen. So if I turn MTE on and route that through our relay server, we should not see this header on the next request. So I'll send that. We see, of course, the URL is encrypted. And if I look at the request headers, we do not see AAA up here. We do not see AAA in the response headers. But we know that it's there because we're correctly printing it right here. And if I change this, everything still works. So that's MTE Relay on the client and the server, protecting all of your HTTP traffic, the URLs, the headers, the request body, and the response body.